Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing an open Ultra League team that helped this trainer climb from 2550 ELO all the way up to Legend, a 450 ELO climb, using Shadow Pokémon. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Tommy W, so many thanks for the battle submission. The team features the Shadow Pokémon on the lead, and some Pokemon with some unusual movesets in the back. As the save switch, he's running Tentacruel with Sludge Wave as the nuke move, and as the closer, Giratina Altered running its legacy move of Shadow Force. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's check out the team in action. Tough lead in the first match, leading Shadow Pokémon into Shadow Feraligatr. Shadow Pokémon lightning fast with Sand Attack, able to outpace the Feraligatr, land the Weather Ball, and then save switch into Tentacruel. Opponent saves the energy, they're going to send in a Shadow Alolan Sandslash. Sandslash is going to win charge attack priority. Drill Run will hit for massive super effective damage, but Tentacruel is able to hang on and withstand the damage. Tentacruel returning fire with the Scald. The Scald is going to connect, and we do see the attack drop come through. That is quite nice. Opponent is going to perfectly overfarm and play to the CMP tie once again. They're going to go for another Drill Run, and that will be enough to pick up the KO. Back in comes the Hippowdon. Hippowdon forced to go down a shield, as Hippowdon is going to look to try and get a full Sand Attack farm down and exit with a massive amount of energy. Looking to switch, in comes the Feraligatr and getting the catch of the Hydro Cannon. That is very nicely done, as that catch is very, very important, as now, even though he's down a shield, the Hippowdon has a massive amount of energy for the endgame. Giratina gets the shield right, as it is going to be the crunch in the back. It's Annihilate. Oh my goodness, he's going straight for the Shadow Force. Do they respect the damage? They do not get that Annihilate out of here. Oh my goodness. Annihilate in absolute shambles. The Dragon Claw gets shielded. They're forced to fire off energy with the Feraligatr. Feraligatr picks up the KO with the Hydro Cannon. In comes Hippowdon. Hippowdon Sand Attacks down and takes the win. Moving to the next match, leading Shadow Hippowdon versus Pidgeot. Hippowdon does have a pretty significant pacing advantage here. Hippowdon going to fire off the Weather Ball Rock right away, and this is going to do some pretty significant damage to the Pidgeot. Pidgeot going to commit the shield, and if they're shielding, they're probably going to go for a Feather Dance, so we see the immediate no shield here. It is the Feather Dance, and now Hippowdon's attack has been 2 stages debuffed. Hippowdon still going to stay in here and fire off the Weather Ball Rock. This has been debuffed, but it will still do a little bit of chip damage. Hippowdon making it to another Weather Ball, but unfortunately losing charge attack priority. The Brave Bird connects. Down goes Hippowdon, and in comes Tentacruel. Tentacruel will be met with energy from the Pidgeot. Are they going to full send the Brave Bird here, letting it through? It is the Brave Bird. That does quite a lot of damage, and in comes Annihilate. Annihilate will be met with the Scald. Scald will do some very nice damage. We now see the switch into the Giratina. Giratina can use this as an opportunity to get quite a lot of energy. The Annihilate full sends the Shadow Ball, and that's going to help. Giratina looking for the farm down, and this is not enough for the Shadow Ball. This is only the Night Slash, so a very comfortable no shield for the Giratina. And Giratina exiting with energy. The opponent still has the Pidgeot, but whatever they had in back, they did not want to play anymore, and they resigned the match. We've got a Core Breaker on the lead in the next match, Shadow Hippowdon versus Jellicent. Jellicent does very well into both the Hippowdon and the Tentacruel. But as we see here, Hippowdon already at a Scorching Sands. They're running Bubble Beam on Jellicent. There's no actual way. There is no way they're running Bubble Beam on Jellicent. I haven't seen a Bubble Beam Jellicent in ages. Oh my goodness, that is so unfortunate. Shadow Hippowdon is going to no shield as Jellicent goes for another Bubble Beam. Hippowdon, unfortunately, its damage output has been significantly reduced by the back-to-back Bubble Beams, as Scorching Sands does get a debuff, but even with the debuffs, Hippowdon able to make the Weather Ball Rock. This should be enough to pick up the knockout, and it does with one more Sand Attack. In comes Annihilate, choosing to save the Hippowdon for later, resetting that 2-stage debuff and sending in Tentacruel. Annihilate staying in the matchup. They're going to fire off the Shadow Ball. That does some very significant damage. Tentacruel going for a Scald after a pretty nice overfarm. The opponent is going to have to go for another Shadow Ball to pick up the knockout. This is not Night Slash range, and it looks like they're just going to counter it into Night Slash range. So they're more than happy to shield up here and just try and counter it into Night Slash range. We are now going to see the no shield by the Tentacruel, as Tentacruel is not quite in Night Slash range, but after a couple more counters, it will finally get KO'd. Aiden comes to Giratina. Giratina committing the shield in case it is the Shadow Ball, and it is. That proves to be a very important shield. In the back, it's Talonflame, and this is where having Ancient Power could potentially be helpful on the Giratina. Giratina goes for the Dragon Claw. It does get no shielded. Looking to farm up, and the opponent will fire off their first charge attack. Nothing they throw can knock out here. It is going to be the Fly, and Fly, that's very, very okay. Giratina going for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw does get shielded. Giratina, and the catch onto the Shadow Hippowdon, saving the Giratina as Giratina looks to be able to close up this game. The Giratina is going to get one turn bring in. Oh no! Giratina should be able to do 2 Shadow Claws and the move there, but unfortunately the game lags by a turn. It ends up being a CMP tie. Dragon Claw is not going to KO, but oh my, the Giratina getting the farm down with 1 HP, exiting with the move, and the opponent resigns the match. The tough leads continue for the Shadow Hippowdon as it now leads into Poliwrath. Safe switch into Giratina is unanswered by the opponent, so Giratina is going to fire off the Dragon Claw. Opponent banks the move. They send in Registeel, and Registeel, I don't think they're going to be prepared for this Shadow Force. Shadow Force takes absolutely forever to get to, and it has very poor damage per energy, but the surprise factor can make it quite fun, as we saw in the first battle where the Annihilate got nuked through 2 shields. The Shadow Force is going to connect. Registeel will be able to make another Zap Cannon, but again, this is only resisted damage. It's not going to be enough to knock out the bulky Giratina. Giratina able to withstand the damage, does get the attack drop, which is a bit unfortunate. Giratina will fire off the Shadow Force. The Shadow Force connects, getting that Registeel low. Registeel cannot make the move as the Shadow Claw KOs just as it's able to get there. Back in comes the Poliwrath. Icy Wind will pick up the KO, but with switch advantage, this game is looking a lot more playable, as now the Tentacruel is here to completely wall any of Poliwrath's possible charge attacks. They're going to go for the Scald. They're fishing for a potential debuff, and they get it. And this is why the Tentacruel is running Sludge Wave, so it has a damaging move versus the Poliwrath. The Poliwrath actually respects the Sludge Wave, so it feels like whatever they have in back must be weak to Tentacruel as well if they're committing a shield there. Going for another Scald, getting another debuff, making it to another Sludge Wave. And now the opponent has a choice to make. Are they really going to double shield here? No. They're going to get KO'd. It's Virizion in the back, and this is so bad. Shadow Hippowdon has very good coverage into a lot of things, but unfortunately, its energy is completely walled by Virizion. This is a pretty big problem. Getting the debuff on the Scorching Sands is step 1, though. The Leaf Blade is going to connect, but the poor Hippowdon in the worst possible matchup that it could see. Now firing off the Weather Ball. Weather Ball into Virizion, going to win charge attack priority, and I think at this point you just try and commit to a Poison Jab farm down with this Tentacruel. Tentacruel is extremely low. Tentacruel gets the Poison Jab through, which is quite good. Okay, Tentacruel, this is going to be so close. Oh my goodness. Tentacruel, oh man, you can't even see the HP on that Virizion. Leaf Blade is going to be shielded, and the Virizion gets to a third Leaf Blade on 1 HP there. And as the match timer counts down, the opponent does get the win. Moving to the next match, picking up a great lead, Shadow Hippowdon into Steelix. Opponent safe switches into Poliwrath, and guess what, Poliwrath? There is a complete wall to your energy. In comes Tentacruel. And with Sludge Wave, even if the Poliwrath does get the first debuff, then the Tentacruel can still do quite well here, because the Tentacruel isn't relying on entirely resisted charge attacks. It can go for a Sludge Wave, and that Sludge Wave landing right there guarantees switch advantage. There's now nothing that the opponent can do to make a play for switch. They can go for another Scald, but it really does not matter. Tentacruel is going to get a full farm down and exit with energy that it can use to threaten the Steelix. And Steelix, not a massive fan of Scald. Scald is going to connect. That does substantial damage. In comes a non-shadow for Alligator, but it is the shiny for Alligator. And I've got to say, it's definitely a shiny that I quite like. We're going to see the shield from the Giratina as the Ice Beam comes through from the Feraligatr. Giratina over farming like crazy, but it's too risky to go for a Shadow Force. A shielded Shadow Force would be an absolute nightmare, whereas a no-shielded Dragon Claw is perfectly fine. So definitely making the right call in this matchup to just go for the Dragon Claws. Start getting some damage, start getting some shields. The Ice Beam will not KO the bulk of Giratina coming in clutch here. And Giratina, one more Dragon Claw. Now the switch into Hippowdon. Hippowdon so fast with Sand Attack, able to outpace. That's going to be goodbye to the Feraligatr. All that's left in the back is the Steelix. There's no hope remaining for the opponent, and they concede the match. Moving to the next match, the Shadow Hippowdon versus Guzzlord. Very interested to see how this matchup plays out. The Guzzlord, of course, does have a pretty significant advantage in terms of fast move pressure, but the Hippowdon has the speed edge in terms of being able to get to these charge attacks very, very quickly. The Scorching Sands does get the debuff, meaning the Brutal Swing is not going to do a whole lot of damage, and meaning that the Shadow Hippowdon is actually going to be able to win the Zero Shield here. Opponent lets it go, Guzzlord gets KO'd, in comes the Trevenant, Trevenant looking for the farm down, but Hippowdon says no. Hippowdon able to make the Weather Ball, get some damage, in comes the Giratina, not wanting to give Trevenant a massive energy advantage. The shield, oh, that proves to be a very valuable shield, as the Shadow Ball does come out from the Trevenant. In the back is Skeledirge, so the opponent is running a double go strategy. This is a situation where potentially having Shadow Sneak could be quite nice, but as we can see, honestly, the Dragon Claws plus the Shadow Claws are adding up quite a bit. So overfarming quite a bit. Now going to go for the Dragon Claw, getting the shield from the Skeledirge, 2 and the move, very principled charge attack timing here, as this next Dragon Claw is going to be no shielded, and we see the catch onto the Hippowdon. Oh no, Switch Claw comes up, catching the Shadow Ball, and now this is just a very straightforward win, sending back in the Giratina. Giratina going to be able to grab the last shield from the Trevenant with a Dragon Claw, or if not, they're just going to lose their remaining HP. So they're forced to burn the final shield, play to the CMB tie, but this Trevenant is much too low. Neutral Poison Jabs will very comfortably KO it. In comes the Tentacruel, and as we've seen so much in this video so far, the opponent resigns the match. We've got some spice from the opponent in the next match. Oh my goodness. Leading Shadow Hippowdon into XL Oranguru. Oranguru can learn Trailblaze, which would not only boost up the confusions, but hit for super effective damage. The Scorching Sands is going to connect. We're now going to see the save switch into the Giratina. Giratina is going to be met with a Foul Play here. Foul Play will hit for super effective damage. Giratina continuing to farm up a massive amount of energy as Oranguru goes for yet another Foul Play. The opponent more than happy to stay in here because this is not Dragon Claw range. XL Oranguru does have a lot of bulk to it. Gonna need one more Dragon Claw after that. In comes Gliscor. Oh my goodness. Making it to the Shadow Force. Do they respect the damage? They do not. The Shadow Force connects again. It's a Giratina. Its moves do no damage. Until they do, because oh my goodness, that Shadow Force does a lot of damage. Committing the shield as the opponent is going to go for the Aerial Ace. And now Hippowdon is going to fire off the Weather Ball. Weather Ball Rock will KO here. The opponent commits the shield. We're going to see a switch into the Tentacruel, as Tentacruel will be able to absorb the energy, as it is another Aerial Ace from the Gliscor, and in the back it is Annihilate. So this is looking very, very favorable. With the energy advantage, Tentacruel able to outpace the Annihilate as well, make it to the Scald, and the Scald does get the attack drop. So now a Shadow Ball won't even knock out. Like, granted, you can shield this if you want to, but a Shadow Ball won't knock out. Opponent goes for the Ice Punch bait, and that's just not going to cut it. The question is this now Shadow Ball range? Not wanting to risk it. It would have been close, so I do like the shield call, because now you can guarantee to land a Scald, and the Scald will do some nice damage. In comes the Hippowdon. Hippowdon not going to risk a Weather Ball not KOing here, going for the guaranteed knockout with the Scorching Sands. In comes the Gliscor. Gliscor, oh, the catch onto Oranguru. Very nice catch by the opponent there as they try and fight back in this game. But the undercharge by the Hippowdon. Hippowdon withstands the wing attacks and makes it to the Weather Ball. Weather Ball knocks out the Gliscor, and that's yet another win. Moving to the next match, leading Shadow Hippowdon versus a non-Shadow Alolan Sandslash. Now, this is a pretty interesting matchup. The Alolan Sandslash will be able to hit for super effective damage with Ice Punch, but they're running Shadow Claw, so their fast attacks are only hitting for neutral, whereas Hippowdon just continues to chip away. Opponent able to make a very nice catch onto Feraligatr as they catch the Weather Ball, but now as the Hippowdon, you can just farm right back up, send in the Tentacruel, and Tentacruel does very, very well versus the Gator. This Feraligatr is running Crunch, so they are prepared for Tentacruel counter switches, as Crunch will give them a move that at the very least they can hit back for neutral. They're going for another Crunch, fishing for the debuff. They're unable to get it. Tentacruel not trying to risk for Alligator making another move, so Tentacruel will go for the Scald and pick up the knockout. Down a shield, but there's a lot of energy available on the Hippowdon. In comes the Sand Slash. Unfortunately, Scald will not knock out here, so the opponent can no shield if they want to. A Scald will not KO. It does get the debuff, however, and with that debuff, they can't farm down. Oh my, they're forced to throw. Ice Punch will pick up the knockout. There is a lot of energy stored on the Hippowdon. Going to send in the Giratina, as Giratina will be able to absorb the Ice Punch better, and we'll see what they have in the back. The opponent staying in with the Sand Slash, and now we see a catch onto the Hippowdon, saving energy absolutely everywhere. Hippowdon, oh no, this opponent, oh no, they have a Charizard in the back. It's so over. Shadow Hippowdon at back-to-back Weather Balls. Only one shield left for the opponent. There's nothing this Charizard can do. It's a Shadow Charizard. It's at full health, and it's one shot by a Weather Ball Rock. Hippowdon gets the farm down, and that is a good game. All in all, these were some extremely entertaining battles, and it goes to show that thinking a little bit outside the box can produce some very positive results. As I mentioned at the start, he mentioned that he started at about 2550 ELO once Ultra League began and was able to climb up to Legend rank with the team, and with some pretty unusual movesets in the back. Like Giratina and Tentacruel are Pokemon that you're going to see on a lot of Open Ultra League teams, but even with those, with Shadow Force and Sludge Wave, choosing to run some interesting nuke moves and pairing it with that very spicy Shadow Hippowdon, able to find quite a lot of success. So big congratulations and thank you for submitting the battles, because man, seeing those Shadow Forces land and just seeing the speed of Hippowdon was incredible. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.